So you were saying about how unfortunate the English were.
They're not unfortunate. They deserve every second of it.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, you can't. Their fans can't carry on like that and then expect everyone to feel sorry for them when they lose.
Yeah.
It's like you hear nothing from Belgium, you hear nothing from Croatia about, you know, and everything's positive, and it's like, we're great to be here, all this sort of stuff. Not, we're going to win. It's like, you can't just go, we're going to win because you made a semi-final.
I know. Even when they got past the group stages, though, isn't it? It's like, well, they won one game with 4 balls. I mean, I like their optimism, but
I like the fact they support their sides, because we are the opposite. Australians are horrible at supporting our team. We are the first ones to kick them all down. Oh, we won this. It's like, yeah, we didn't play anyone. Who cares? It's like, there's somewhere in the middle that's like, you can be supportive without being ridiculous.
It's funny, isn't it? Because me being Welsh, you being Australian, and then if you're Irish or you're Scottish, for some reason it's just that sworn rivalry against English. I'm sorry if you're English and you're listening to this, but it's just how it is. But Tim's not sorry.
Sorry.
You were telling me though they're rubbish winners, right?
They're bad winners. It's like all you hear about, like, it's when they win the Ashes, they win a game in cricket. All you hear about is for the next 4 years. It's like, oh, we won the Ashes. It's like, you won it once out of the last, 4 series or something, and all of a sudden it's just like in. It's like, just say, yeah, we won. It's great. You don't have to bring it up every 3 seconds.
I say, I'm not going to lie, man. Like I said to you, I am like quite satisfied. I mean, I'm glad they got past the group stages, you know. But like when they got to the semis, I started to worry a bit then. So I was thinking, you know how many English there are here in Coogee alone, and it's like you were not here the end of it.
I like the Southgate thing. I like the fact that he is a bit of an English football villain, and then they embrace him, and then he loses and they boot him again. It's like, oh, hang on a second. I quite like the guy. He seems like a good guy. He seems like he doesn't give a shit like everyone else.
Yeah,
so like their young side look good, and they look like they're a little bit more humble. They're a little bit more hungry.
Yeah.
But it's the fans. It's not the players.
I know it's not the players. That's right. That's right. But yeah, I could go on for the whole episode just laying into England. Let's do that instead. But yeah, if you could give us a bit more of your background in terms of who you are. Tim's a physio, by the way, in the gym I work in here at Titan Fitness, and he's at the top of his game. So yeah, if you could just...
Physiotherapist, have worked as a physio for about 14 years now. I played professional rugby for a bit. I played down at in Canberra for the Brumbies, and I played a couple of seasons Australian Sevens team, so I'm a bit of a rugby head, and I love my rugby, and that was a good exposure to a lot of really good doctors and really good physios, and sort of getting that strength and conditioning side of things a little bit more. Physios, you come out of university and you don't get taught pretty much anything about S&C, so I found that all my learning about S&C came through the really good S&C guys at the Brumbies and the Aussie Sevens. There's a few guys who are right at the top of the game, so it was really good to get that side of things, then build that into the rehab side of things.
Awesome.
Got hurt a couple of times really badly, and that sort of slowed the career down a little bit. So I've had a big compound fracture of my tibia, which is like bone out of skin, foot facing wrong way.
Ouch.
A couple of dislocations, dislocated shoulder, dislocated knee. So I've got someone else's Achilles is my now ACL.
Lovely.
Tore my pec off the bone last year trying to play freaking first grade rugby at 35, which isn't advisable.
Really?
That's probably the point of difference that I've got as a physio is the S&C combined.
So by S&C you mean strength and conditioning?
Strength and conditioning, sorry.
Yeah, sorry.
Strength and conditioning combined with the injury history sort of gives you a bit more of a well-rounded view rather than the thing that they sort of throw down your throat at university, which is a bit more benign, I suppose.
Yeah. More hands-on kind of thing. I was going to say if you could just delve a little bit deeper into strength and conditioning, because I didn't realise you had that background.
Yeah.
So that like actually applying,
Yeah, well, I feel like there's a really big gap in the physio market. So the physio market gets someone from a very, very basic rehab point of view and sort of goes, okay, well, we've got a glute dysfunction. How do we activate that glute? How do we get you moving better in that small activation sense? And then we do go a little bit more whole body, okay, show me a squat, all that kind of stuff. But there is a massive gap between that and returning to sport, returning to powerlifting, returning to footy, returning to whatever. And so the S&C stuff that we got, and I didn't do any S&C course or anything, but just sort of working with really good guys, just higher ends, how do you clean, how do you snatch, what's your lifting tech like from how do you do a heavy dead, how do you work on your heavy dead when it's not working well, how do you get it better, all that kind of stuff you don't get from a physio point of view. from the course, so you've got to go and source that elsewhere. So I was lucky that I sort of fell into it a little bit. A lot of guys have to go and do their level 1 strength and conditioning courses as physios to try and the level 2 to try and get that side of things.
Yeah, that's what I did that myself. Yeah, but you actually had it hands-on kind of.
Yeah. I just had it sort of. It just was around it, and so I was doing it, which is always a good thing. I'm a horrible explainer. I'm the worst explainer in the world. I'm going to struggle as soon as I'm too old to do all the shit I want people to do. I am a nightmare.
Yeah.
So it's like I'll just say do this. I'll just do it. They say that's not right. Watch me do it again.
Yeah, of course.
Whereas other physios are a bit more wordy, but I do struggle to for the explanation side of things. I'm lucky that I have the ability to sort of do a lot of the things that I need people to do.
Yeah, that's good. So you're more practical, but you have to put the work in, right? To be able to, you have to keep on top of any imbalances you have, mobility, strength, to demonstrate, right?
Yeah, 100%. And look, I've got many things I'm constantly working on all the time. Sometimes I get lazy at one thing and it catches up with you and it gets a bit sore, and then other times you're right on top of it. But, you know, when you've had, like I've had 4 major reconstructions, so between shoulders and knees and feet and all that sort of stuff. If I don't stay on top of any one of those things, I am not able to do what I want to do. And so it's all about, especially as you get older, the injuries compound. So every time you get hurt, it's not about the fact that you got hurt, it's the fact that that adds to the injury history, which means you've got to work harder to be able to do fun stuff. It's why people retire. You stop doing things because it gets too hard to stay on top of all the things that allow you to keep doing it. And so the more you stay on top of it early, the less it compounds a little bit as well. So you don't have these 25 million things to do to keep you in the gym. You've only got 3 or 4 at any one time. But yeah, it's just a constant little juggling act. I use the analogy all the time. It's like you've got 12 balls juggling in the air. Occasionally you drop one, you got to keep the others juggling while you pick that one up and try and keep it juggling again. And so it's never perfect. You just got to keep trying to push through as best you can.
I see. I can relate to that because I spent a lot of time playing rugby. I had a few little knocks, but nothing on your level, mate, in terms of injuries. But just even lifting weights for like 16 years, it got to a point about 2 years ago where I was like, right, okay, I've created these imbalances. Now I've got to stop ignoring these signals, like twinges here, twinges there. And then thankfully I got on top of doing mobility stuff and lengthening out my tight areas and stuff. But it's so important, right? Because luckily now I haven't injured myself, but I think I was on the verge of injury. So
and if you can stay on top of it, you don't get hurt. I think a lot of the time it's really hard to sort of put your ego aside. I try and get people to do that all the time. It's like, you're not that good at it, or you do have this imbalance, or you're not perfect at things. You've got to look at yourself a little bit more critically in every aspect of life, but especially in sport and in the gym. It's like, I'm doing this really well, I don't need to work on that. It's like bollocks, you need to work on everything. There's always something to work on. If you think you're perfect at it, then you shouldn't be doing it because you've done it. Why are you doing it anymore? It's like no one's ever perfect. You've got to try and learn what the problem is and work on the problem at any one time. And be self-critical. Don't think you're killing it. You're not killing it. Just keep pushing harder.
Always room for improvement.
Always room for improvement. You're never great at anything.
That's it. I agree with that. So, what are the most common ailments you get with people coming to you, and how do you get? Because my client, who obviously you do therapy with my client. And she said you're very good at addressing the root cause. Like you can look at someone. I mean, you've got great experience. You're an expert at what you do. So you can look at someone, and you can straight away pick up on imbalances and whatnot. So how do you address the root cause? And what are the most common things you get with people, really?
The most common still, even though we're a sporty practice, you still get your postural necks and backs more than anything else. So postural lower back is still the number one thing we see, which is generally because of our lifestyle. We live this sedentary lifestyle where we do tend to be sitting for periods of time. Everything's in front of us. We're bending over all day, every day. And so you sort of do have this imbalance of flexion versus extension. And you just see that pattern over and over and over again. So once you see a pattern over and over again, you sort of look at it and you find those things really quickly and easily. There are patterns to every sort of injury. And so when we're looking at say we're having a chat to someone, they'll say, I get pain when I first wake up in the morning, and then it gets pretty good, and then at the end of the day it gets a bit fatigued again, and this movement hurts and that movement hurts. And so putting together that history, I've already got a pretty good idea about what the cause of that problem is based on that history. And then you've got to sort of mirror that up with what they do when they're moving. And so then you do what we call a physical examination, which is where you're looking at people move, you're looking at, you may be poking around on some joints, looking at flexibility and mobility, and you've already got this sort of a pretty good idea, so you're sort of targeted to that way, and it's confirming that what your diagnostic sort of impression is to begin with. So it's most things follow these patterns, right? And so the more you do this as a job, the more you see those patterns and the easier it is to recognise them. And the other thing that I find is it's easy, the thing that I suppose experience gets you is it's easy to recognise when something's not that pattern. So if something's a little bit different to that, then you go, okay, well hang on a second, what's going on here? And that allows you to pull back and sort of get the more complex ones and look at that one a little bit more thoroughly. It's just, yeah, it's an interesting one. It's still, as you said, I'm never perfect, no one's ever perfect, but it's just about looking at trying to put the puzzle together. And so you've got to listen to them, you've got to look at them, you've got to see them move, and that will put the puzzle together.
I see.
But still the thing is postural backs, postural necks, you know, and it's what I see every day.
Yeah, that's what I see as well. The typical rounded shoulders, protruded neck, protruded head, I mean.
It's just this.
That's the keyboard life, isn't it?
Yeah, and they fixed it. They fixed workplace ergonomics. Sit-to-stand desks, you know, great screens, great keyboards. Take this laptop home and sit on the lounge and do that.
Yeah,
it's like,
I know. That's exactly it.
And then we're going to do what are they, flexible desking or flexible workplaces where they go and they use different desks every day. It's like, well, hang on, I just set that desk up.
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
like, why do I have to move to this one?
That's it.
So it's good for business, to be honest.
Yeah, it's great for business. Yeah, exactly. You're not complaining.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I'm just trying to relate to the listeners now. So a lot of people do get that, don't they? Lower back problems and stuff. Without going too much into my experience, what would you? I know it's very hard because it's not a one-size-fits-all approach, right? And there's so many variables, right, from person to person. But I'm just thinking, someone listening now, they've got a tight lower back, you know, because that's very common. What would you say they can actually do, like, to help, you know, prevent anything?
Yeah, it's one is your best posture is your next posture. So no matter what you're doing, the more you get out of that, the better. So if you're somebody who stands all day at work, sit down for a bit. If you're somebody who sits all day at work, get up as much as possible. So moving around, movement's the number one fix for all this sort of stuff. The second is reverse your posture. So if you're here for ages, then you've got to do things that get you in the opposite direction. So, you know, for lower back, for example, the easiest thing to do is like a standing extension or a lying down like a cobra. So just move your back in the opposite direction, then it's sitting all day. And if you do that a few times and you do that multiple times throughout the day, then you're sort of, I suppose you're balancing out what's happening within your posture. And so if you hold like this, you've got to do the opposite. If your head's forward, go to the opposite. If your shoulders are forward, go to the opposite. And so it's just about recognising, okay, well, what is the posture that I'm in too much, and trying to do the reverse of that. It's really hard to stay strong and stay in good posture all the time. It's almost impossible. It's the goal that people have. It's like, oh, you know, I want to improve my posture. And it's like, being posturally aware is probably more important than being strong. And so if you're aware that you're sitting shit, then it means you can move. If you think that you're sitting well and you suddenly don't worry about it, then you're going to hang in that position for too long, and that's where you get your strains and your sprains, your overactivity of muscles and your tightness and all the things that cause pain and dysfunction. But if you're aware of not having great posture, that's a really good start. And you can do your strength and you can move throughout the day. And so that's half the battle, I think, is that awareness.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, mate. Next question was about movements, fundamental movements like squats and deadlifts, which I find a lot of people tend to neglect. How important are being able to, I mean, looking later down the line now as we get older, obviously, and just generally in day-to-day life, you know, we need to be able to at least do a reasonably decent squat, right? And like deadlift, like a hip hinge, so tilt from the hips and, you know, picking stuff up off the floor. And you can relate all this to day-to-day life. So how important are these movements, and how could you stress that to people?
It's the first thing we teach people, pretty much. And so once we've got you out of the degree of pain where you're really, really struggling, so say you come in for an acute lower back, it's like first thing we've got to do is get you out of pain, right? So that's your massage and heat, blah, 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 blah. Then we've got to teach you how to move, because you've done this because you've done something in the first place, whether it be a postural thing or whether it be a lift technique thing or whatever. So the hip hinge especially, so being able to cut yourself in half and actually remember that you've got a hip joint, it's not just, you know, knee spine, which people tend to sort of get, is the fundamental movement behind everything. So if we teach people to squat well and deadlift well, from there the lower limb works so much better. So your glutes fire better, you're having less knee tracking problems, you're having less, you know, Achilles tendonitis problems, you're having less lower back problems. From there, you're able to sort of set that posture a little bit better in through the thoracic spine, your head sits over your shoulders a bit better. So the ability to move and that you know, postural awareness, body awareness is super important. So it's the first thing we teach people, deadlift, squat. almost no matter what your injury is. And we sort of tweak it based on injuries, but the general gist of it is if you can squat well, if you can deadlift well, and then the other one that if you stand on one leg, which is the stability aspect of things and getting the little stabilising muscles to work well. They're probably the three things that we look at more than anything else.
Okay, so that's great. And I was going to say about the hip hinge, because I'm constantly teaching clients how to hip hinge, and sometimes I've even stopped saying hip hinge now because some people find that complicated. So I just use basic terms like stick your ass out, like keep your stomach tight. Just trying to relate again to the listeners. How do you explain a hip hinge?
Everyone's brain works different.
That's
right. You've got to. I just keep rattling it off until they get it. I'll just explain it 1,000 different ways. I'll show them 1,000 different ways. I'll use, like ass out. I'll use the bands to try and cut them in half a little bit around their waist. I'll get them to stand 20 centimeters away from the wall and say stick your butt against the wall. I'll stick a stick behind their back and say tilt like drinking bird with a stick. There is no one way to skin a cat. You've just got to roll off every little way you know how to teach someone until they get it. And it can be a bit of a pain in the butt, but it's everyone sort of gets it in the end. You just got to stay with it. And if you're someone who's like, I can never do that, it's like, well, you're always going to have problems. And so you've got to learn how to do it. You've got to teach your brain how to move well. And the word I use is disassociate a lot. So disassociate is essentially where you can isolate different body parts. And so you need to be able to go, okay, well, I can pelvic tilt. Okay, from pelvic tilt, then can I stick my butt out and keep my back straight? Yeah, I can. Then I'll go down and I'll go into a deadlift. And it's like, there's my hip hinge. And it's like, it's trying to work out how to move segmentally, which is really hard. And it's like, for guys out here who are, training and struggling with those things, use your personal trainers, use your physios, use these sort of people to try and teach you how to move better. Because once you move better, the risk of injury just goes through the floor. It's all about moving well. You can't do anything without moving well. And also performance. There's a thing that in my world where people forget the role that physios can play, and especially the role I like to play and my guys down here like to play as physios, is we can improve performance purely by looking at, okay, where are your weaknesses without even having an injury. So it's like showing me a squat, okay, well you've got a little glute med dysfunction, how do we strengthen that? Here's some stuff to strengthen it. Bob's your uncle, your squat goes up 5 kicks. It's like you've been bashing away at that for the last 2 years, just trying to put more weight on it and struggling. It's like, well, you didn't look at, well, what's the dysfunction? And so, it's great. It's easy as an injury level because obviously often these things are blaringly obvious and they're not quite as obvious in a performance level. But you're still looking at the fundamentals from a performance level still increase the performance at the end of the day.
Okay, this next question just popped up, and it's something that's a little bit selfish because I'm trying to learn a bit about this myself, so forget about this.
This is us having a consult?
Exactly, that's exactly right.
That's what the health one
I know. That's it, but it's foot mechanics. I was going to talk about that because that's my next level for myself personally. And I find myself more and more looking at people's, because like it is if I was go as far as to say is it probably plays the biggest part in a sense when it comes to learning how to squat and stuff like that. Obviously the hips are very important. The whole body as a whole mechanism is important, but foot mechanics and people having issues with their feet because obviously we don't walk around barefooted like we used to when we were hunter-gatherers anymore, so our connection to the feet is not as good, right? So
no, it's a really contentious issue. It's one of the ones where physio, medicine, S&C, there's everyone's on both sides of the fence. So when I look at all those things and when I look at situations like that, it means there is no right or wrong answer. The right or wrong answer is based on the individual who's standing in front of you. Now, if you've got overpronating feet, which means your arch collapses as you're moving too much, and that's causing problems or that's affecting your performance, then there's two ways of looking at it. You can either work really hard at trying to strengthen those control muscles, but you're strengthening control muscles against a situation where it's it's quite ingrained, and so you and you probably never thought about it before. And so we're trying to get strength in an area that you've never really thought about before. You've got some structural reason to be there as well. So you've developed that over the years, or you're born with it as congenital, or whatever. And so how much of that are you going to be able to achieve? Is that person better off having a supportive shoe? Is that person better off having orthotics? Is there a deficit right to left? So is there one foot worse than the other? If that's the case, it's really hard, and they're going to be causing more biomechanical problems rather than having both feet the same. It comes down to time, I reckon.
Yeah.
It comes down to how much are you willing to sit there and do boring
Yes, that's exactly it. That's why I keep putting it off, Tim.
Control of your feet a little bit more.
Foot strength and football.
Versus wear better shoes.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
that's it.
There's there's 1,000 ways to do it, but it's also about what level are you. You know, are you someone who is squatting 180 and wants to get to 200, wants to go in powerlifting competitions, wants to be an elite level athlete?
Yeah.
You're probably working on those 5%ers. Are you someone who walks in who wants to lose a bit of weight, stay injury free, and be healthier? Why do we need to fight that fight? You know, it's about.
It's a very broad
It's
question,
almost picking and choosing what is the thing that is most pertinent or most relevant to that person not doing well. And if you can throw a pair of orthotics in them, and all of a sudden their foot's in a good position.
Yeah.
You know,
That's
there's
exactly
an argument for that, and there's an argument for the other way. And
So would you want to say that's more of in a sense, like a band-aid approach? So I know it's going to help, temporarily, but would that be a long-term answer for some people? Again, that comes down to the work they're willing to put in, I guess.
Exactly right. It can be, but it's also it's you go back to caveman days, and the argument with caveman days is a really interesting one because we have never walked around on even surfaces ever, and so you haven't developed this arch over a period of ever, right? So it's not like it's something that we've had from birth and we've lost. You've been walking around on concrete in shoes since you could walk. So you haven't lost this. This has never been there. And so as part of human evolution, there's two ways of looking at human evolution. We're getting a bit deep here.
That's good.
It is, are we doing things that we don't need to do? Has our brain beaten this problem? And so humans haven't evolved. We haven't grown an extra thumb. We haven't, lost our appendix, all that kind of shit that people think we're going to do. What we've done is we've worked out how to take the appendix out. We've worked out how
our brains have evolved.
Yeah, exactly. Our brains have evolved to solve these problems. The food one, which I'm not going to get into because it's very confusing.
No, I love it though. I always talk about evolution, so it's all good, mate. Crack on.
The food one, it's like, we weren't farmers. It's like, but we became farmers because everyone was fucking dying.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
so
agricultural revolution,
exactly,
all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So our brains evolved to solve these problems. And
That's
so,
right.
Yes, you can fix your feet. Is the orthotic a bit of a band-aid solution? Well, when do you need to be in bare feet running trails? If you want to, that's great, and I'm all for that.
It's not realistic, is it?
But if you're an overweight 40-year-old female who's busting their ass just to get to the gym and do their S&C and their cardio and all that kind of stuff, are we throwing foot mechanics down that person? Or are we just getting them to turn up and saying, it's great, you're doing really well, we're squatting, we're deadlifting, we're doing all these things. We don't have to fight that fight.
That's what you mean, yeah. So adapting to where we're at in time, really, isn't it, essentially?
Yeah, and what time you have and what you want to do.
Yeah,
so the person who wants to become more grounded, wants to do their trail runs and their vibrants and their barefoot running and stuff, it's absolutely fine. It's fantastic. Do it properly, do it slowly, work on your foot mechanics, work on your glute mechanics. If you are a good, perfect, really great athlete, you can definitely do that. It's just the expectation on the client may or may not be realistic for them to do that. And so that's always an interesting thing from my point of view and the personal trainer point of view. It's like, how realistic is this person going to change their arch? Yeah. And you pick and choose.
That's it. Whatever they're going to be consistent with and actually do is what you provide them with.
Consistency is the key.
It's the key thing, isn't it? I've got it's not random, but it's a bit off topic. Yeah. But the next question was, what is the difference between a physio and a sports massage therapist? Because I'm aware of that now, but it took me a while to kind of crack the code.
Yeah. Look, the depth of knowledge is a bit chalk and cheese, unfortunately, for the sports massage therapist. The physio from a biomechanical point of view, a movement analysis point of view, is trained in that. The sports massage therapist isn't trained in movement analytics. They can be exceptionally good at releasing tissue, often better than I am. But it's putting the whole picture together. Their training isn't down that route. So the exercise prescription isn't taught. And so there's excellent everything, right? And so don't get me wrong, there is excellent massage therapists, there's excellent, all aspects of our industry. But the fundamentals are they aren't really taught how to do any of this stuff. And so physio is a 4-year degree where we go into the depth of all that kind of stuff, and there's a level of continuing education and a level of evidence behind everything we do that has essentially been proven to why we do that. Massage therapy, sports massage therapists, there isn't that side of it. And yes, it can make someone feel better, and yes, I think it's a really important part of staying mobile and fit and active and healthy and all that kind of stuff. But the injury analysis isn't quite there.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
So yeah, prevention over cure kind of thing, and
Yeah,
the corrective side of it.
fantastic preventers.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think they have the skills to cure.
Okay, yeah, I see.
As a whole, and that's a very
Yeah.
general comment.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, and we skimmed over this as well, but like just basically tips for people who, you know, were getting, most people do have sedentary jobs nowadays, they get pain in their back, you know, pain in their neck.
Yeah.
You said the Cobra, right? So
Yeah.
if you just, I don't know, maybe if you could just give us like 3 of your favorite exercises, and so people could do consistently for a few minutes each day, just to...
Yeah, Cobra is my number one for my lower
So explain
back.
that quickly, because I know what it is.
Lying on your tummy, putting your hands, like you're doing a push-up.
Yep.
You keep your hips generally on the ground, and you gently push up and get an arch in your back. That's my number one for my lower back. Number 2 is for my upper back. It's rolling, so lying over the top of a foam roller or a towel, rolled up towel or something equivalent to try and extend through your upper back. So if you're lying down, you have your knees bent up, feet on the floor, so you're in sort of crook lying.
Yeah. Well, that's right. We're on film anyway.
Yeah,
That's cool. Okay.
so anyone can look at the film.
Yeah.
And then having the towel or the horizontally.
Horizontally, right? Okay.
Or the foam roller horizontally, and you're trying to sort of arch back over it.
I see what you mean.
Nice and slowly.
Yeah.
So it's more about
Flexion and extension.
yes.
Right.
So a lot of the times people will sort of roll up and down trying to release their
see
their
that a lot,
muscular
don't you?
tissue.
Yeah.
Where it's like, that's great, but it's not really that postural reversal that we're after.
Right.
So we're after reversing that flexion posture that we talk about all the time, the shoulders forward, chin position. So arching over the top. And the third one is a chin tuck, which is a similar sort of vein. So our chin forward position is a problem. It's chin back. And so it's sort of less like someone's grabbing you from the hair behind your head, so like a ponytail, and pulling it straight back and doing that repeatedly. And so doing them repeatedly, gently but repeatedly and relatively frequently, can sort of reverse that sedentary side of things and keep you mobile in both directions. You know, it's very rare that someone walks in and can't sort of flex their spine. Well, even someone who's tight in their hamstrings can get to sort of 3/4 shin. But someone who is tight in their extension will just go bend back a tiny bit, oh, that's stuck, and you can see their spine doesn't move in that direction. Your spine's supposed to move in both directions, flexion and extension. So if you're finding one is feeling really stiff, then work on that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. And in terms of, like, I assess people myself, like on the first consultation, I'll do like 3 different assessments with them.
Yep.
And one of them is like a squat assessment.
Yep.
And for me, the anterior pelvic tilt is probably the most common thing I see. So tight hip flexors, you know, weak core muscles, you know, hamstrings and whatnot, and also the rounded shoulders kind of thing. Yeah. So when you get people to do a squat, what are the most common things you see with people, like issues?
Probably the first is that losing their lumbar spine, so losing their pelvic control. And so it's not, I don't love anterior pelvic tilt, posterior pelvic, it's about maintaining neutral spine, right? So the butt wink is something you see a lot at the bottom of the squat. The butt wink, for anyone who doesn't know, is sort of where your spine and your butt will flex under your spine at the bottom of a squat. The second one is losing your glute stabilizer, so your knees coming in. So when you're getting to that squat stance, those knees collapsing together is a really good indication that glute medius, so one of your glute stabilizing muscles, isn't doing its job properly. And so that collapse in is another thing that we're really looking at. So they're probably the 2. So being able to control neutral pelvis, and then being able to activate glute stabilizers to keep yourself square are probably the 2 things that we look at more than anything else.
Oh, okay. Good stuff. Makes sense. And I was going to ask you now just a bit more about business, just a question about business and...
Close your eyes and go for a ride.
Yeah, that's it, mate. You ready for this?
Hang on.
I want to hear your journey.
That's my business.
That's it.
Close your eyes and hang on.
Exactly, close your eyes and just go for it. Yeah, that's what I do as well. Just, you know, just wing it, isn't it? You know, just go for it.
I like I was always talking about this book that I'm writing that I'm not actually writing called The Ostrich Approach.
Yeah.
You stick your head in the sand. Don't worry about it.
Just bury your head in the sand, isn't it? Literally.
Don't worry about it. Just see what happens.
Just go with the flow.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, obviously, you're crushing it as a physio here in Sydney.
Yeah.
Doing really well. You've built a business from scratch by the looks of it.
Yeah.
And just wondering if you had any tips for people who are, trying to build a business and, trying to essentially fend off the competition or, make the competition irrelevant, if you like, because that's what you want to do, isn't it?
Yeah,
How have you managed to do it? Have you got any tips?
Being self-critical is really important. Knowing what you are is really, really important. So knowing what product you're selling, knowing who the market for that is, and being critical in that. So not trying to necessarily market yourself to every single little person, because not everyone is for what you provide. I am big on no bullshit. It's like people see through you, and so you need to believe in your product and be producing a good product, whether that's a thing that you're selling physically or my time or expertise or whatever. It's like everything that I'm telling someone is something that I would do myself or tell a family member. And so if I want someone to come back next week, it's because I need them to come back next week, not because financially it's good for me to come back, for them to come back next week.
I see.
Because if it is just that, they will see through your rubbish and they'll go to the next person or not really buy into what you're doing. So it's being self-critical, not being gimmicky, not being salesy, and being genuine are the things that I've sort of built a business on. The knowledge is one thing, but the knowledge is only one aspect of it. You've got to give a shit, you've got to like what you do, and you've got to genuinely want to, for me, it's us wanting to help people, I suppose. And if you're doing it from a financial point of view, then I think often you're in the wrong place.
Yeah.
So nothing that I do is, like, obviously everything has a financial roll-on effect and you have to make sure the business makes money, otherwise it doesn't exist. But the fundamentals are that if you do that second and the little things first, like someone comes in for taping, I don't charge them. Someone comes in and sticks their head in for advice. I'm not saying that's a consult. It's like, I'll give everyone my time. You ask me to do this, it's like, yeah, sweet. No dramas. I do a seminar for Titan in a few weeks. They're like, oh, what do you charge for it? Nothing. It's like
added value.
Yeah, it's a value add. It's me getting in front of people to be able to market myself. But it's not. I'm not selling every little aspect of it because then it just becomes a bit cheap.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and people see through that as well, don't they? The bottom line is just constantly trying to sell someone something. You're just going to piss them off. You've got to give. We live in. I keep saying this. We live in a world now which is full of information. You can get whatever information you want. From Google, from the Google man.
The Google machine.
Yeah, exactly. So integrity is really important to you. I believe in that too.
Massively, and that's what I try and instill that to my staff all the time. It's like, and it's for them. It's like, it was really interesting. The thing that I found most about being a business owner and having staff under me was that I do things without thinking about why I do them. And so I actually have to sit down and go, well, hang on a second, how come I do that and they don't naturally achieving that same goal or doing that naturally? It's like it's hard for them. And so breaking down the fundamentals of how you do what you do is really interesting, and how then do you teach that to the next person? Because everyone's different.
Okay.
And everyone's motivated by different things.
Exactly.
So having staff is the hardest thing. For me, just be a physio is easy. I love it. It's easy. I love the puzzle. I'm generally not too bad with people. It flows on really easily. The thing that's difficult is having 10 employees.
Yeah, exactly. Keeping all them in check to make sure your business is on point in terms of the quality of that.
Yeah, keeping them on check, keeping them interested.
Yeah.
Keeping them, because you want staff retention is huge. We talk about consistency. Consistency of my staff has a massive effect on my bottom line.
Yeah.
And so consistency in all aspects of life. So if I can keep them interested and staying and engaged, then it's better for me financially, but it's also a better workplace. And that's what I try and create, a workplace that everyone enjoys. My staff enjoy it. The people that walk in enjoy it. I take the piss a little bit. I'm not full of shit. I'm not overly pretentious about what we're trying to achieve. I'm not a doctor wearing a lab coat. It's like I swear too much, play stupid music, or wear Converse. Like I'm not the quintessential medical practitioner.
People like that, don't they? You just want to see a human, man. Yeah, exactly. Just being yourself, authentic, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I was just going to say, so what should people, just sprung to mind then, what should people, because there's a lot of, like in any industry now, but like in this day and age now, I think it's becoming, with technology and stuff, people can look on, I don't know, for example, Google again, TripAdvisor, and they can see, and obviously word of mouth, but there's still, like, for example, personal training,
Yep.
my industry, it's saturated with,
Yep.
you know, anyone can do this Mickey Mouse certificate and actually become a personal trainer. So there's so many shit PTs out there.
I
It's
tell people
unbelievable.
you get one in every third box of Kellogg's Nutri-Grain.
That's it, mate. Every third box, mate. I say every box, bro.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, like, how do people, you know, what are the common kind of signals people should look out for? For, like, you know, people, for example, I had like a chiropractor before, and I kept going back and forth and stuff like that. And don't get me wrong, I don't want to slay him too much because he's really good at what he does. But at the end of it, I thought to myself, right, I need to get to the root cause of this issue, which is a muscular imbalancement. So, like, for me, going back and forth and getting cracked every 3 days really wasn't going to be a long-term thing. So, for physios, to say someone wants a physio, they want to go and see someone, what should they look out for in terms of people trying to just, you know, rinse them?
Yeah, it is really, really hard. I think the thing that's happening a lot these days is the old physio 2-machine ice pack sort of thing is absolute garbage. There is so much research out there that says that doesn't work at all. So if you're finding that someone's sort of putting you on a machine or you know, putting a heat pack on and not doing the fundamental exercise side of things, exercise therapy is the only thing that works from a proof point of view.
Yep.
Now, the release stuff that you do and the mobility stuff, like the hands-on stuff that physios do, is still really important because it gets you moving better. But at the end of the day, the only thing that works is exercise and changing habits and changing the way you move and doing strengthening essentially. So you need to have someone who is doing that. You know, if you're walking in there and it's all very passive, it's not working. If they're not talking to you about something happening in your lifestyle that you have to change, it's not working.
Right.
And that's not necessarily about, the thing that I suppose I look at is that's not necessarily a thing about them fleecing you. It is potentially them just not being very good.
Okay,
Which is the other side of it.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Because most people go into physio and be really genuine because it's known to not make a hell of a lot of money compared to other things. It's hard to get into. It's like 98 in the HSC, which is like the schooling marks. So it's like stupidly difficult to get into. So not many people go into it without having a pretty genuine wanting to help people. That doesn't necessarily mean that everyone's good at it.
Yeah, of course.
The other one is the one that I am getting really shitty at the moment, which is a business side of physio that's coming into it, is bulk booking. Right. So if you're walking in there and saying, I've torn my hamstring, and they go, okay, you need to pre-book 8 sessions because this is going to take 6 weeks. And so it probably is going to take 6 weeks, but you might need 2 sessions booked in because you know you're going to come twice in that first week. But how you heal and how this recovers and how you respond and how much you're doing your rehab and how much pain you're in, all this stuff dictates how often you should be coming. And so it should be a very fluid process. I may have a plan for you that says I want you to come maybe 4 times in 2 weeks, but if you're doing really well, that needs to change. And so the inflexibility about bulk booking appointments for me is just gives me the shits.
Yeah,
because I feel like that is a business side of physio that is essentially trying to make money and doesn't have the person's best interest at heart.
Yeah, exactly. And do you give people homework as well? Like, so for example, always, yeah. That's it.
Always. You've got to be doing something.
Yeah, you've got to be.
Because you're seeing me for half an hour a week. I'm not fucking doing anything. It's like I'm teaching you how to fix yourself. That's the way I look at what my job is.
Yeah.
I'm looking at you. Maybe I'm changing a pain state by putting my hands on you. So like by releasing something or whatever. But essentially, I'm teaching you how to fix yourself. And so if you're not doing anything outside of your physio session, you may as well just be putting your money down the drain.
That's a good point. You can relate that to anything, isn't it? Because I always I get this message across to people with nutrition. It's like, you know, the old saying, you know, give a man a fish, feed him for a day. Teach a man a fish, feed him for a lifetime. So you've got to apply yourself, haven't you, and actually do your homework.
100%. Otherwise, you're getting nowhere.
Exactly. That's pretty much it then, mate. That's a wrap. Thanks a lot for your time, Tim.
I didn't. Next time, can you give me the memo about the singlet?
Yeah. No worries. I got the guns out. It's just why you didn't wear it, really, mate. No, actually, mate, you'd be pretty pumped right now, Maybe that sun's getting to you. You're
one big
overheating.
arm, one little arm too. That's my little arm. Pec tear on that side, so I got nothing.
Don't worry, mate. Next time I'll wear a raincoat, okay?
Yeah. Much better. Big fluffy jacket. It's cold outside. I'm going to the singlet.
We've got some magnified heat coming in here. We got a nice little suntan here, folks, as well. It's beautiful.
It is.
Awesome. Thanks for your time, mate. Really appreciate it.
No dramas.
Take care, buddy.
You too.